Hi everyone, so I'm Jordan. I will be the moderator for our last panel today, which is on the subject of gaming. And like I was introduced, I am partner at Aglaé Venture. We manage the web3 investment for the Arnaud family. And I will first let all the amazing panelists that we have today quickly introduce themselves, and then we can get into the subject.
I'm Kieran. I'm the founder and CEO of Mirage, an augmented reality platform and social layer.
Ridhima, Kahn. I'm VP of Business Development at Dapper Labs.
I'm Thomas Zaepffel, co-founder and CEO on Immortal game. We are building a chess web3 game.
Hello guys, my name is Julien Bouteloup. I'm the founder and CEO of Stake Capital Group. We build companies, we invest, and we manage investment across the industry. So we have also been participating in Curve Finance, the auto market maker. We have Vect News, Stake DAO, Blackpool. Also been investing in a fantastic project in the space.
Thank you all. So I think we'll start easy in the question, and maybe just a round on what is the most exciting things for you in gaming within the space that is being done today, by you or by someone else.
One thing I'm really excited about is sort of the composability component that we're trying to sort of inject into a few of our products. So for instance, we have UFC Strike, which is the UFC collectible game, and we've now created a game on top of that using the collectibles. So sort of increasing utility and in what you can do with the collectibles that you own.
Yeah, I think I would say working in augmented reality, it's the ability for digital objects to now become a part of our physical world. New updates to ARKit and whatnot have allowed persistent digital objects. So now these things that existed in the game world can now become their own statuettes and figures within our everyday life that really allow for a new form of games to take place, and really excited about that in particular.
So on our part, obviously, we are very excited to try to leverage Web2 users of chess and to onboard them on Web3. So I think it's definitely the subject of the topic. So that's what we're trying to do every day.
Yeah, so what we've been looking at over the couple past years is direct correlation of the physical activity and bring this activity into the digital world. So for example, one of the major actor was Sorare, a football fantasy game that now is well known for by all the people in DeFi, Unicorn, European Unicorn, a French company that have been able to extract value from the physical world. So you see the real-time performance of those players. You watch games, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, or Paris Saint-Germain, PSG at the moment is not performing so well, but our portfolio in Blackpool, we have, for example, Mbappé or other players such as Griezmann. So we manage this portfolio, but the interesting aspect is the correlation, direct correlation between what's happening in the real world and what's happening in the game. So our performance of our NFTs are directly connected to what's happening in real life. And that's the reason, for example, like Immortal, which is a chess game, it's exactly the same. You can play the chess as the normal rules, but you can also add an extra layer of gamification on top and then extract the value and distribute the value among all the people that are playing the chess game. So this is exactly what we're looking into. We are, for example, the World Cup of Rugby that is coming this summer being hosted in France. We're doing the same. All the different games that have direct activity in the real world, this is what we are looking into in ourselves.
Yeah, and you spoke quickly about Blackpool, and I think the next subject that I want to touch on is like community. Community in Web3 is like the basis of everything that we do, but I think it's even more real in gaming because the community is also like the ones using the platform and creating like community among themselves. And so like on the subject of community engagement and the gamers themselves, can you touch a bit what you're doing with Blackpool and then others in the like on the panel?
Yes, so Blackpool, as I mentioned before, it's originally I started by buying Mbappé, and then I suddenly realized that I needed someone to play the game on a daily basis because it's require a lot of time and knowledge and experience of the real world activity. So now what we do, we invest massively in the market. In bear market, we are approximately between, I don't exactly know the number, but like 8 and 12 million US dollars deployed on the gaming industry. We have Sorare, we have Immortal, we have other platforms. So what we do, we invest, we also build, and then we manage. Managing is an important aspect of those assets. compared to what traditional finance used to have. As VC, they invested in the asset and then they wait 8 years, 12 years to make a return of investment. Our stuff is completely different. We're not actually looking to sell because we can use those assets like a real club, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, or Barcelona. What they do, they buy assets and then they play them, or then they can do transfer. This is exactly what we're doing at the moment, and the community plays a huge role. And the reason for that is because for the first time, community is involved in the value capture of those different games and different platforms. That's what's really, really interesting to us. Is like we can engage the community, and the community is participating in the value. They're adding value to us, but also we're distributing value back to them. For example, we distribute 80% of the rewards that they generate, and we keep 20%. But we buy the assets for them, so they have no risk. They play the game, they outperform the game. So we train managers, and those managers, we try to be on the top of those leaderboards.
So on our part, I'd say it's why we decided to start Immortal game, because we felt that existing chess platforms, standard one, web 2 ones, they were lacking a social, let's say, compartment, and that's definitely why we thought that Web3 would enhance chess world, and that's exactly what happened at the very beginning. Because since it's a PvP game, as you may know, it was very difficult to bootstrap the first player base so that we have good matchmaking. So it seems not that important, but actually when you start from zero and you have to create your player base, it's very important to have a community that follows you and that knows that what you're building is for the long term. And Web3, I think right now really enables that, because it really shows, it really gives us the tools to reward the community for being patient, for being with us in the beginning, and to trust us. So that's definitely, I think, why we succeeded to bootstrap the first player base. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to have games on the platform synchronously.
Yeah, we think community has always been, a core piece of Dapper Labs. So even when we initially started, CryptoKitties or NBA Top Shot, we had these massive, massive Discord servers that people were participating in, and we started to bake that into our engagement loops as well. So with NBA Top Shot, for example, there's a concept called the locker room. So after a drop, and for those of you who aren't familiar, essentially the way it works is that there will be a drop on, let's say, a Friday at noon, and already by 11 a.m. the queue is getting filled up, and once that queue hits noon, the first few hundred people will be able to get the packs. And once you get the packs, you get, let's say you get 10 moments, and moments are video collectibles of moments of a game, for example, and in this case, basketball. And once you see what your moments are, you may decide that you want to keep some of them, that you want to trade some of them. So we've created this concept of a locker room where after the drop, you can actually go and engage with other collectors, and one person's trash might be another person's treasure. And that type of engagement loop not only helps build community and blockchain, increases sort of the transparency that's associated with that, but it gives people a reason to sort of come back and check into the game.
Yeah, I think the way we think about community is the real driver of community is this concept of affiliated marketing, basically creating a product strong enough that you have your friends willing to tell other friends about it. So with something as new as augmented reality, we really focus on building like a base layer of tools, creating somewhat of creative constraints for people to take and create whatever they may. And with that, they become their own cheerleaders of the concepts and experiences they're creating. And I think incentivizing that is probably the key to how we're thinking about it.
Thank you. Another subject that I think is very interesting within the gaming space, when people think about Web3 gaming, they think about play to earn, and everything, like in Web3, everything is tokenized, so potentially financialized. But people say that a lot of gamers are actually mercenaries and they're just here for the financial returns. But we see more and more games that are like focusing on the fun aspect and focusing on what the game should be. So what do you think is the place of play to earn games in the future?
I'm happy to jump on this. I'm really excited with like crypto infrastructure being a part of games with this idea of like engage to earn. So there should be two ways to really be a beast at a game, in my opinion. It's the idea of like if you really have the financial capital, you can buy yourself into that, but you can also earn to that level of regard. And I think creating a kind of this bartering economy between the two is a really great way of just making like an equal opportunity system in these games. So play to earn was the first meaning of that. I think we saw whales really take control of that, but really I think we need to work on like the the abilities and the ladders for these people to earn their way to that level of wealth status just by being hyper-engaged in these games.
Yeah, I do believe that play-to-earn games, in the definition of earning, playing because you are paid to play, will completely disappear. The reason for that is because you have like big studios of gaming that have been building like billions of dollars games in the past, like FIFA, PRS, like those football games, or Fortnite and all the different games. So the thing is, like, those people, they play the games in the Web 2 because they love playing those games, for the passions of playing. So when those guys entered the market of gaming in a blockchain industry, then those people will keep playing those very good games, but plus adding and extracting financial value, or like extracting additional value. So the reason why we've seen games before entering the Web3 market and people playing those games, because we had this kind of concept like we've seen in the past with the ICO and landing pages, where people were creating projects without actually ideas behind. 99 of those projects disappeared. That's the same in the gaming industry, in the Web3 gaming industry. People that had no experience in gaming tried to build games because they had experience of blockchain, but actually it should be the opposite. You should have experience of gaming, because the market is moving into this space. So now we're seeing like EA, Electronic Arts, and all those big studios that are building games are now using some consulting companies, such as, for example, because we're in France, but Comet, to bring the blockchain aspect to those games. And then when this happens, people will have no incentive to play games that they don't like to play, because you have amazing amount of games that you play for passions, and then you can get value out of it. So that's how the space will really move towards like high quality games, AAA games as well. You can play on PlayStation, Xbox, and then at the same time have the components of crypto and blockchain behind them.
Yeah, I totally agree with Julien. I think now we used to see a lot of play-to-earn games because I guess the quality of the games were not where it should have been. And that's really important. I think, at least for our experience, we don't put Web3 completely at the center of the game. We think at it as an enhancement for a normal game. So it's not a Web3 game. It's a game enhanced by Web3. And to see it as a utility that can really bring liquidity to the asset, that can enhance social capabilities in your community, I think that's the key. And that's where the industry is going to move in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I agree. You know, with any of our products, we don't actually mention Web3 in any of them, or blockchain. It's really about, to your point earlier, the game design and the engagement loops. And so where I think play to earn is interesting too is from a fandom perspective, where you're rewarding fans for their fandom. So we don't like to think about it in terms of investments, but if you are an early believer in a player and that player happens to do really well, you should be sort of rewarded for that. You should also be rewarded for your hustle. So if you get into the queue early and you are able to get a pack, oftentimes it's much cheaper to obtain that pack than individually purchase each moment. And so creating rewards for fans who are engaging, I think, is a great way to keep people interested.
Yeah, I would just say I totally agree. I think it's really interesting what we're seeing with like Gablade and Digidakus and like data mills at Castaways, where they basically offer this free system to begin with. So if you're there early, you actually do get the incentivization where you have that NFT first, and basically building and bootstrapping community off of that, bringing in what we were talking about before. But yeah, I expect to see more of this free giveaway style onboarding into games and really creating that like base community to begin with.
Absolutely, and lowering sort of the barrier to entry for your entry point is so critical. We found that to be really important in all of our experiences.
And looking at the subtitle of our panel, which is Onboarding the Next Billion in Web3, do you think gaming is the way to do that? And what do you think are the key pieces missing on the infrastructure level or the UX level for it to make it very simple to onboard people that don't want to take the time to create a wallet and things like that?
So, on my part, I'd say I don't know if it's the best way to onboard the next billion to Web3, but that's why we chose chess. 1 billion people in the world play chess. We thought it was a very good way to leverage this very ancient game to onboard people to Web3. and I think it will be the case. But in terms of constraint, I think it's still the security. People don't feel in a secured environment if they don't, if they're not used to wallet integrations and stuff like that, because of obviously a lot of scams. So I'd say it's mostly that, at least from our experience. People are scared about it, scared to lose their NFTs, and even when we are very careful with our community and our moderators, we still have some players getting scammed in our Telegram account and stuff like that. So obviously, I think there is still a long way to go so that we can give a very secure environment to the players and to the user in general in Web3.
Yeah, I think overall onboarding is still a barrier for many projects. So with Dapper, we use Dapper Wallet, to your point on wallets, where you can use a credit card to purchase. So I think making that experience really simple, like Dapper Wallet, Bitsky, and other companies are really focusing on right now. So I'm excited for that to progress. And then I think being really authentic to the audience that you're going after. So for us, in this case, it would be sports, for example. We want to make sure that we're adding value to those users that has engagement qualities, but isn't necessarily for simply just gamers. So there's different levels of engagement that you can participate in depending on sort of your interest in gaming or your interest as more of a passive fan or collector.
Yeah, I think this may be a little sacrilegious to say at a ceremony such as where we're at, but I think like NFTs are still a little too polarizing to reach mass scale adoption via games. I think the future of games is really going to look like the back end is all of that crypto infrastructure that we're used to, but the front end is going to feel like a regular everyday experience. I think you can kind of validate that with these major brands who have kind of dipped their toes in things, Starbucks or whatever it may be, or Reddit dipping their toes in Polygon, but not going all the way in. So I expect to see more of these games that have kind of developed the back-end infrastructure of crypto, ready for that to turn the switch when the time is right. But for now, it may feel as though it's just a regular virtual experience.
Yeah, I'd also add composability back into this part of the conversation, because I think seeing a few big game studios enable NFTs and the ability to take those into multiple games will also be a big catalyst.
Sure.
Yeah, the gaming industry, if you look at the traditional market, and that's why I always like to make an analogy, because what we're doing in DeFi has 80 or 90% replication from the traditional finance, and then we changing the protocol, we're adding a little bit of additional feature, decentralization, transparency, but then the business model, they usually kind of the same. The gaming industry always in a Web2 market was one of the industry that pushed $1 trillion into the Web2. So the adoptions of Web2, the adoptions of internet was really accelerated by the gaming industry. So and that's the reason why in Blackpool, our major vertical, 80% of the investment plus the activity that we have is in the gaming industry, because we started before NFTs and big, not before NFTs, but like the gaming, and that was huge in NFT, because before the gaming was the arts in the NFTs market. So that's the one reason. Of course, saying onboarding, and we've been saying onboarding for the past 5 or 10 years. This is one way to onboard more users. But if we think that the visions and the revolution is happening, those big players like Apple and Twitter and the big application that we're using on a daily basis, they will provide this technology. They will provide the tools to be able to use a normal application without you realizing that you are using blockchain. And that's the thing that we're moving into. There's no point of understanding the underlying technology. We today at the NFT Paris, and we're all trying to understand the premise, understand the underlying technology really deeply. But in the future, 99% of the population, they don't need to understand. So those technology will be provided by free. It's like using internet, HTTP, using SMS, email, SMTP. You don't need to know about those things. But one point that Thomas was, I really like, is the security aspect. Because even if we have a nice onboarding, we can use those tools, then it's really risky for those people to use those products. Saying that not your key, not your crypto, not your asset, it's nice for 1% of the population worldwide, but it's not talking to the 99% of the remaining people. So what we need And I know that the community has been against those different actions, but strong regulations, providing a way for people to be secure, accessing those tools, and also having the big players like insurance company, notaire in France, that can provide those kind of insurance protocols or insurance products for people to use and play those games. For example, if you play Immortal, you become pretty good. You have those pieces that are worth a lot of value. You don't want to beat them into your phone, someone steal your phone, even if it's using facial recognition model or private key, this is your key. Who has a ledger here to manage the asset? This is kind of dangerous. So we need the entire people in the industry to play, to talk together, and to help each other to build those tools that will protect us. For example, concrete application is, I want on a daily basis to be able to only spend maximum $100 US. So if someone come, kidnap me, and then force me to give my private key, he knows that it will be only able for the months to steal $100 US, whatever happens, and then you can have guardians. An mobile application is good for that. Argent, this is what they're doing. So protection and security comes not from protecting like bank or safe they're doing, but more from the hackers knowing that they cannot do even if they enforce you to do it. And this is only if all the players are talking to each other. Regulations, insurance, legal, and all different things.
And maybe just to add on what you were saying, Kieran, I think regarding the fact that Web3 will be like a back office or infrastructure of games. So I totally agree, but there is one thing I think that NFTs has brought to the gaming industry and will keep bringing is obviously digital ownership. And when you look at the way it provides liquidity to players and to also investors, such as, for example, Blackpool and other guilds, I think it's really interesting, and I think it's something that will really stay in the coming years. And people will feel now, in 10 years or 5 years, they will think that it's crazy to invest, I don't know, $200, $1,000 in FIFA if you don't really own your assets. And I really think that's something that changed forever the gaming industry.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think a lot about like what Blur is doing with the NFTs right now, like providing liquidity on both sides. And I'm very excited for a world where in-game assets in all these games have that sense of liquidity as well. So you could easily just, whatever, dump the floor and it doesn't disrupt it at all. Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, I like.
And so it seems that there is a consensus around the panel that most of the games will not feel like Web3 and will just be like Web3 will be in the back end. So on that note, like, what do you think about games? Like, is there a space for games that are fully on chain, that take advantage of the Ethereum virtual machine, of the Flow VM as well? Because we saw in the NFT space, for example, when NFT became like exploded during the last couple of years, then people started to look at like fully on chain NFT where the storage and everything is on chain. So do you think there is a chance that something like this would happen with game as well, where there is a market for easy games where you don't feel Web3, but then we have an exploding market of games that could not exist because they exist fully thanks to, you know, block time or things like that?
Yes, the data will not be on the main chain, but you have tools like a PFS or other toolings that will be able to store the data of the games. What we'll see, and I believe the next generation of game will be, because they will, the logic will be on chain. So basically, normally, people can also build on top of those games. So meaning we see dApps as application, for example, Curve, Uniswap, where people build application on top of protocols. I believe those games, they will become protocols. For example, Immortal or FanLive or Sorare, and then people will be able to build on top of them or change the logic of those games and update those games in real time, or like moving forwards and moving towards like what the games wants to be. And this will be the first time that the industry of gaming will see those type of things. It's like maybe like Minecraft, but Minecraft is in the universe of Minecraft. What if those games become interoperable between each other, talking to each other? You can share your experience, your points, your ambassador profile, or whatever across those games, and then you see an evolution of games in being built by the community. And the reason why is because the creator are incentivizing this, because they see the game evolving in time, and this never happened before.
And even without the protocol creation, even before that, I think just that with NFT interoperability, it's just like you were saying. I know that on Sorare, for example, some initiatives were already done where you could play another game with Sorare NFTs. That's something also we're looking at, to create mini games or other games in which you could play with assets from our game. And I think this interoperability with liquidity is something that NFT brought to this industry.
I love your point about Minecraft. I totally agree. I think there's a huge market demand for that, right? If you look at YouTube, whether it's Dream flipping the gravity on Minecraft or Mr. Beast creating these like weird mini games, I think there's a huge desire to have these unique experiences created by creators using the same like composable games that we've already been using. So I definitely see a market for that. On the other side of that, I'm really interested in like what Bored Ape is doing right now with this Sewer Pass and that game there, right? This is kind of a game that has really kept a tight audience of basically the same kind of demographic of stable financial people. It's not something that's really striving for a mass audience, to my knowledge. Maybe someone here knows otherwise, but really curious if we're going to see more games of that nature where they stay hyper local and almost like hyper financialized to the early communities that created them.
You wanted to add something?
No, like, I'm not sure what's the next question, but
Yeah, we have 3 minutes left.
okay,
so.
yeah. Just one point, like, then we've been talking about the pro and all the how Web3 will bring the gaming industry into this next phase of a perfect picture. I also think there will be a lot of different questions about financial questions inside those gamings, because then at some point, before we said and we demonstrated that people used to play games because of the passions, this will continue, but also the concept of financial aspect of those games. Imagine like a kid of 5 or 6 years old playing the game, but maybe also being forced by the parents to play the game because financially this is actually the way of making money for the family. The point is like there's a lot of different things that are happening that are really cool, but also this industry of gaming and financial concept about playing and earning money and earning a lot of money is also like quite like some complicated question that regulators will need to tap in.
Yeah, I think this is even something that we start to see within the creator economy, with people like streaming and you know, like being not necessarily forced to stream, but like highly encouraged and being like groomed into it naturally, I would say, or unnaturally. And just to get back on what we just discussed on the composability, I think something that could be interesting when you mention like games as protocol would also to see people not building on like the protocol side, but doing like another UI for a game. So you can imagine that there is a game that's like, you know, something that is very like bro manly and not that doesn't appeal to like a more feminine audience, and then someone build a game that is completely for that particular audience or for like younger audience or older audience, and with the same like core. This is something that is not possible today, that I think we'll see. So we have like 2 minutes left. Maybe to finish the panel, is there like a controversial take that you have on the gaming industry and that you want people to think about after this panel?
Well, I think I already mentioned the concept of
this is what I'm asking. You just
getting paid to play or actually playing, but for dangerous reasons, and so this is one aspect. Not sure if you guys have.
Yeah, I would say in kind of my relation to my point at the very beginning, I don't think like the future of gaming is actually going to come from these big game developers or these maybe big VC-backed companies. I think it's going to be like from the tools that those companies provide to allow their own users, again, to create their own UI experience overlaid on top of these games. I think the future of gaming looks a lot more like layers of tech built on top of these distinct worlds as opposed to new worlds themselves built from scratch.
Yeah, I agree. I think providing the tools and then letting people sort of build on them and making it really seamless is really important. So and sustainable. So on Flow, there's a game called Dimension X, which is a little bit more like a traditional game. And I think that we're going to continue to see that because really the Flow blockchain is optimized for microtransactions and quick sort of responses and sustainability. And I think that's exciting.
Well, yeah, I think that will be, because we cannot guess what will be the future of games, but I think the future of games, as we all agree on that, will be completely different from today, and also the concept of how AI will play a role inside those games, because at some point, even the game creator cannot determine or know what will be the output of playing the games. And plus, if all of the different people are doing different pieces to make the evolution of the game, plus the AI component inside, what if an AI component evolve in the metaverse of gamings and then start making money by doing tasks and playing games? For example, maybe one of our manager on Immortal playing chess, or on Fan Life playing rugby, or on football, maybe it will be an AI soon, and then we have questions.
So maybe the next billion users are AI bots.
Well, we are buying and spending a lot of money in this because we want to test it out. But this is also like very dangerous. At some point, do we want the entire industry being taken by those bots? You know, and that's dangerous.
Okay, well, I think we are out of time. So thanks everyone. If there is anything you want to say or like have people to reach out. Thank you.